It had been a smooth ride back from Isle Royale aboard our Ranger Tug Hoppy Trails, and we made a quick stop in Grand Marais to do some laundry, get groceries, and do a little shopping. As always, it was sad to put Grand Marais in the rearview mirror, but we were excited to return to where this adventure began, the Apostle Islands. It was a smooth ride across the lake with fog enveloping us shortly after leaving port, but the skies eventually cleared into a beautiful, sunny day. After 7 hours underway, we were ready to stretch our legs. First stop, Raspberry Island. With a tight squeeze and a light breeze blowing us off the dock, we put our skills and thrusters to the test and tied up. The Raspberry Island Lighthouse is the most visited lighthouse in the Apostle Islands. It was first lit in 1863, but the building was rebuilt in 1906 to house additional keepers, and it remains to this day. The interior of the lighthouse is decorated as it might have been in the 1920s, and the friendly park rangers are more than happy to give you a tour.
It is original to 1862.
There are cruises from the mainland that'll bring passengers to Raspberry Island, but if you've got your own boat and you time it right like we did, you can have the whole place to yourself.
Fit.
There are a couple hiking trails that will take you to either side of the island, but with the day getting late, we decided to return to the tug and find a good anchoring spot in Raspberry Bay. We returned to Washburn Marina for a night to pick up a very important passenger.
That's the current area.
We were on our way again, this time to Big Bay, on the eastern side of Madeline Island. Big Bay is a beautiful place to drop the anchor with good protection from north and west winds and a long sandy beach to explore. It had been a long time since we last saw Grandpa, so we spent the day catching up, playing in the sand, and figuring out a new routine now that we had 4 people aboard our small boat for the next 5 days.
Clothes or something.
The next day we made our way to Stockton Island, where we decided to go for a 4-mile hike combining the Tombolo and Anderson Pointe trails.
Pretty cool, huh, kiddo? See all that bogginess? Yeah.
It's a very pretty hike that takes you through forest and bog and eventually leads you to the ranger station at Presque Isle Dock. Anderson Pointe offers a beautiful view over Lake Superior, but be warned, if you happen to have anchored on the northern reaches of Julian Bay like we did, it is a butt-kicking hike along the beach back to your boat, especially if you've had a kid strapped to your back all day. last time we passed by Devil's Island, we made the impromptu decision to cross the lake to Grand Marais. We wanted to show Grandpa all the caves and caverns, so we cruised back up for a closer look. The island is normally accessible by boat from the south side, requiring a hike to the north side to see the lighthouse, but the docks are closed for repair. We were tempted to drop the anchor and explore by dinghy, but the guidebook warns of a rocky bottom that doesn't offer a very secure hold and might get your anchor irretrievably stuck. So we passed on the opportunity and cruised on to Rocky Island to stretch our legs and consider where to stay for the night. Rocky Island is a good stop for boaters. The anchorage is well protected from northerly and westerly winds, and it has a sandy bottom for good holding. There's a nice dock on the eastern side of the island, which gives you easy access to almost 2 miles of trails and 5 campsites. It was a short hike for us, though, on account of mosquitoes and other factors.
Awful. It's the worst thing ever. Aren't we having fun?
Yep.
It's a big one.
Can you do that one?
A quick rock throwing session improved morale, and we were on our way again.
Oh.
The wind and waves were forecast to pick up overnight, so we cruised 3 hours back to the protection of Big Bay at Madeline Island, which also positioned us well for the next day's destination of Bayfield, Wisconsin. It was a bumpy morning ride to town, but we lucked out on a last-minute slip opening at the Bayfield Marina. You can also dock at the city dock for a reasonable fee. Just know that you'll get a little more weight from the passing ferries. Bayfield is known as the gateway to the Apostle Islands, but that doesn't mean you should skip a day in town. With only 584 residents, it's technically the smallest city by population in Wisconsin. It's a city full of charm with plenty of restaurants, shops, bookstores, and ice cream. Car ferries cross to and from Madeline Island throughout the day. You might also catch a glimpse of some unique boats at the city dock. While you're in town, be sure to stop at the Maritime Museum. It's free to enter and hosts a nice collection of exhibits related to local maritime history, from fishing to boat building to nautical knots and lighthouses. My favorite exhibit was probably the sea lamprey tank. While they're the scourge of commercial fishermen and Morgan wanted nothing to do with them, there's no denying that these things are weird looking. There's even a mock-up pilot house from the 1920s era railcar ferry, where you can get some hands-on captaining experience.
Yeah.
Just outside the museum, you'll find a 1930s era fishing tug named Ruth. And for those not interested in looking at boats all day, there's a playground right across the street. Eventually it was time to leave Bayfield and make our way to Sand Island, which is the westernmost accessible island in the area. After dropping the anchor and enjoying a minute's relaxation, it was time to go to shore and visit yet another lighthouse.
Out? Why would you want out? Out? You've got Teddy Grams. And now we're trucking. Now we're making tracks. Let's go see a lighthouse. Can you say lighthouse? Lighthouse. All right, let's go. Yeah.
Right. Would have been all supplied here locally.
Like most of the other islands in the Apostles, there's a ranger on Sand Island who will give you a tour of the lighthouse. It's worth mentioning that visiting the Apostle Island National Lakeshore is free, but parking, docking, and interpretive programs may not be so. Payment largely runs in the honor system, so even if your tour guide doesn't ask you for a fee up front, please make sure you pay your dues in the appropriate drop box or online.
This is the modern lake, the original lake. It was taken out of here in the first iteration of automation, I think.
The Sand Island Lighthouse was built in 1881, and the island reached a peak population of over 100 people in 1918, mostly Norwegian immigrants who farmed and fished for a living. The Park Service website tells the story of one lighthouse keeper, Emmanuel Lewick, who lived on the island for nearly 30 years before transferring to the Grand Marais Light in 1921, where he worked for another 15 years before retiring. Certainly a unique lifestyle, and not for everyone, as evidenced by his journal entry mentioning when his first wife left the island. She never returned.
Jeffrey. Hi. What do you think of the view?
After a short break back on the boat, it was time to go for an adventure. Centuries of freeze, thaw, wind, and waves have eroded the sandstone along the island to form an impressive array of sea caves and tunnels. Besides Sand Island and Devil's Island, sea caves can also be found on the mainland and are a popular destination in the winter. It doesn't always get cold enough for Lake Superior to freeze, but when it does, people flock in droves to walk on the frozen lake and look at the sea caves and beautiful ice formations. Exploring these caves on Sand Island was definitely a highlight of our trip.
Maybe. Okay.
After dinner, we put Grandpa on babysitting duty, so we could go on a romantic sunset cruise. The final destination of our voyage was the Madeline Island Marina, and we saw a lot of interesting traffic along the way, including a commercial fishing vessel and the brand new, as of 2022, Viking Octantis. It is an impressive ship. Built to fit in the Welland Canal, but also to take on polar expeditions, it not only sports a fleet of Zodiacs and kayaks, but 2 submarines named John and George. Madeline Island Yacht Club is a short walk away from the town of Pointe, and conveniently, there's a playground on the way.
Whoa!
The town of Pointe is located on the site of a 1700s French trading outpost. Today, it boasts a variety of shops, restaurants, and accommodations. I'd argue that the best way to visit Madeline Island is by boat, but there is a small airfield if you happen to have an airplane, or you can bring your car over on the ferry. In the winter, the island can be accessed by a wind sled, or if it's cold enough, you can drive the ice road. We were starting to get a bit thirsty from the day's travels, so we made our way to the famous Tom's Burned Down Cafe. The cafe burned down in 1992, but it's continued business as a hole in the ground ever since. It's worth a visit for the signage alone. We were too late to see it on this day, but the Madeline Island Museum looks like a great place to learn more about the history of the area. The day was topped off with fish and chips at the beach club.
Sliced pickles.
And just like that, it was time to go home and bring our Lake Superior adventure to an end. We covered 500 miles over the course of 20 days, and there's still a lot more to see. We thoroughly enjoyed our visit to the Big Lake, and we can't wait to return.